Hello there and welcome back to Sanctum, the place where I show you all my tricks. Let's put them off live right in front of you. And sorry if I'm looking at the screen because for whatever reason the software decided to go bananas and I have to rearrange everything on my screen because it's getting in my way. But as the title implies, we're going to keep rocking machine or machine, wherever the pronunciation is. And today I got an actually fun show for you. It's going to be kind of interesting because we're going to be using some of the features from machine that are kind of very cool. Why? Because we're going to be creating samples for our own using analog synthesizers. If you can show them the Estonian rep, and it got to say from time to time, beautiful Taylor Mini, who is selling hello to the girls and the boys.
So let me first say hello to
Yes.
the boys. How's it going?
Manners.
Very glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well. And I'm actually excited to see what you're gonna pull off with Machine because I've seen Machine in action. It's a very capable machine.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what can be done with it. So
Yes.
looking forward to it.
And coming back to the camera, yes, we're going to be rocking today my Mo 32 because we're going to be using a function on machine that is called auto sampler, which means that according to my thank you, exactly that. According to the manual, no, actually, the way that is gonna what the purpose of that particular function is that we're gonna be sampling different notes from the machine, the Mo in this case, so we can use them on the surface of machine as an actual sampled instrument. What's the difference between a regular sample and a multi-sample? Good question. I'm glad you didn't ask. First and foremost, what's sample? A sample. Can you explain, Teo? Because I think you're already kind of after graduating from CLA.
So I suppose a sample is, as the name implies, a sample of a sound.
Yes.
Is a piece, a small segment of sound that you can mangle to your heart's content.
And sorry if there was a little bit of a double on the audio because once again the software went bananas, but it's fixed.
Okay, so now we have it going.
Yes.
So I think that's the basic definition of what a sample is, I suppose.
It's just a snapshot, basically just a super short and a very, very quick recording of a sound coming in, okay? The thing is that when you rock it on something like a keyboard based on samples, you can actually pitch it up and down. The thing is that, as you will see, with the exercise that we're going to be facing today, that even though it has plenty of power, the whole notion of samples, it comes with its fair share of responsibility and also its fair share of limitations if you just go for one sample. So, let's begin. Welcome to Machine 3. The super... Once again, let's fix the doubles because, again, but I think it's working now correctly. Yes, you should. Yeah, let's confirm just in case there is... welcome back to Machine. This is version number 3, the most recent version of Machine. It's been updated quite often for the last few months. Because I know, for those of you who are kind of in the know, Machine, when they dropped this new version, it was kind of not necessarily welcomed. Why? Because people were expecting more stuff than, I don't know what were they thinking, but whatever. It's very solid. It's basically paving the way for the foundation of the next 10 years of Machine. Because when I bought my license for Machine 2, because I upgraded from Machine 1, I'm an OG, and I still have my Machine 1 MK1 unit rocking somewhere. It's not working anymore, not because of the software, the hardware itself, simply. It's not compatible with the environment of today's. But the software is very solid. I like it quite a lot, and it's working very beautifully. So first and foremost, let's arrange this session so we can actually hear what's going on. If you recall last week, we kind of just worked with a little bit of sampling. We created some samples, such as this one. Super deep, right?
It is.
It's very, very kind of eerie, but also we created this. And look at this. This is a sample. Let me show you briefly over here on the screen. Here you got how the sample, if you remove the overlays.
Yes.
Here you can see how my sound is distributed across the different keys of the MIDI keyboard. And if I go to keyboard mode on the machine and I press any of the pads, it's being reflected here. Look at this. But can you notice that this length of the note changes depending on which, on how deep or how high the sound of the sample is?
Yeah.
Why is that happening? It's happening because when you sample stuff and you pitch it up or down, the whole sample itself is going to be forced to stretch itself. There are ways to do it to avoid that stretching mechanism to happen. We already did something similar to that last week when we created these sounds. And you can see that instead of having to use the keyboard mode for me to trigger different notes on this particular set of samples, I assigned a particular path for each of the sounds. Why? Because when I produce the sounds, I used, if I go to the sampling engine, you'll see that when I go to edit, I used, instead of using the pitch that comes with the keyboard stuff, I resampled I resampled the sample, but using the function known as stretch. With stretch, I changed the tuning here and resampled the sound, but the stretch allows me to force it to stick to the tempo.
So it keeps the same length.
That's why it's actually the same length as before. Okay? So, a lot of housekeeping, but that's very important because with this understanding, you will see why everything that is about to happen will happen the way it will. Okay? So, first and foremost, let's connect the Moog to the machine. How to do it? I already have my trusty MIDI cable coming from the output of my machine, hardware, going into the MIDI in of my Moog. Thank you very much. Look at that. Production values. This doesn't have to be exclusively done through the machine itself. Okay? Why? Because a machine has a built-in MIDI interface, hence the use for it right now as my main connection. If you were to be rocking, for example, I don't know, I think the machine micro doesn't have a USB, a MIDI system. I think, I don't know. In case it doesn't have one, you can use a regular MIDI to USB interface. Very cheap. The one that we rock here is the Mayo Mio or whatever you have downstairs with the drums. And it's very useful, right?
It is indeed.
It's super useful. So you can get one of those, and instead of using the machine, you're going to be using that guy. Okay? So we connected both because it's not connected to the machine. Please keep that in mind. It's connected to the computer now through the protocol that is MIDI. Now, let's make sure that we can control the machine, the Moog with the machine itself. First, we're going to go to channel, and in here we're going to look for output. So we're going to look for the output over here, and let me see. You can see it here as well. Okay, so it doesn't have to be on the hardware, but I am so used to use the hardware that I rarely use the computer when working with this thing. Okay, so we're going to be using this path number 4, just for this exercise. First, we're going to select output, as you can see also on your screen, and I'm going to go for machine. MK3 as my output, my destination for the signal.
Not to be confused with MK Ultra.
Oh, MK Ultra, yeah, totally different things. Are they? So, now, we're going to select channel number 1. Why is that? Because my Moog is expecting signal, MIDI signal, coming from channel number 1. MIDI uses 16 channels. Am I correct, Thiago?
Yes.
Why is that important?
It's important because you... where am I?
That. Where are we all?
It's important because you can send MIDI signals from a single device to multiple devices, for instance, or even using something called a MIDI through. You can link devices, sending MIDI information, and only the MIDI information that you want our device to receive is going to be sent to the channel that it's supposed to receive. And like that, everything keeps organized and functioning correctly.
God damn it, CLA paid off.
Yeah, it did.
By it for itself. Perfect, awesome. Okay, so now I got it hooked. In theory, if I press this note, it's working. How do we know? The thing is this. Right now, you don't have the sound. Let me fix it. I'm going to select my output, and look at this. Oh, it's already done because my entire group, I think the entire group is going through. Can you check on the headphones, Theo?
Yes.
Just to make sure.
Go for it. Yeah.
Perfect. So it's going through. Perfect. Okay, now coming back to the machine thing. On my sound, we are right now selected the output of my MIDI signal to go out through the cable into the hardware instrument. Now, since I did it before going live, just to make sure that the connections were right, let me show you why it's important to check as well your input. Why? Because input is where the signal's coming through, right? So first, we go now to input, and as you can see, we're gonna select audio. The source should be correctly, because now I'm wondering why this is coming through. It shouldn't. We're gonna go for, in this case, the input will be my stereo, my mono, sorry. Since I have it connected to my input on my interface, input number 8, it's gonna be translated by machine as input for R. Why? Because machine works in pairs of in pairs.
Okay.
So 8, get it right? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now it's coming through. How do we know? Because we got signal here. Good. Now, what's the whole fuss about this? Look at this. Keyboard mode. And you might be saying, wow, are you that good that you know the notes? The scale? Are you playing a minor scale? Just because you are that good? No, of course not. I suck. What I'm doing is using the built-in capabilities of the machine that allows me to change the keyboard mode on the keyboard mode. For example, right now is minor, right? Let's go for major. Now it's happy.
So happy.
Now we go to chromatic, and that's gonna show you my true colors. I suck, okay? But you already can tell that I'm actually controlling the mode with the machine, because look at this. It's working. Okay, done. Extra stuff. We can use everything the machine has to offer, that the kind of stuff that you could use on a virtual instrument. How? Let's try the arpeggiator. Isn't it awesome?
Badass.
That's great. But we could use this guy now as part of the production of this track, and we could even record it as an audio instance. A full audio, we can use one of the pads on a different bank and use it as a channel for it to be recorded. Mm-hmm. But since today is not that day, we're going to be actually using this to create a new pad, a new sound. Why? Because it's fun, and also because there is something beautiful and magical that happens when you work with samples and create some form of atmospheres and pads. So, first, let's create the multi-sample instrument. So first, we're going to go to sampling, and in here we got different modes on which we can select the output. Let me check. You will see this whole thing over here, okay? This section is where you see the controls on how and everything related to the auto sampling. Why? Because now you can buy the machine software without the need of owning a machine device. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to keep track of both. Okay.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend you to get the device as well. It's very useful, for real. But and musical. So right now we got the standard mode for sampling is gonna be detect, which is gonna be reactive to the sound coming in. Look. And since I already have my input monitoring already set to this particular input, because I made sure that my connections were in proper order before going live, that's why we're getting signal coming in. Okay? Yep. So, the trick is this. We're going to go back to the recording mode, and we're going to go for detect. From detect to auto. On auto, we will be able to record an entire scale or an entire octave, if I properly describe it. So we could have several snapshots of the same instrument, but across different notes, okay, allowing us to avoid the whole artifacting or the problems that comes with sampling just one shot. Okay? Yeah. Now you see why this is cool. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about this is that it's automated. we can select, for example, the input is already set. We already have the MIDI controls correctly set. And we will tell how many notes machine is going to sample. Just for sake of experimentation, I'm going to show you. I'm going to set it to be from C1 all the way down to D1. 3 notes, okay? It's going to be C, C sharp, and D. No more than that. Then, we're going to go for the velocity map. All of the notes are going to be played at 100. Because you can even set the minimum and the maximum value of the velocity.
Okay.
Why is that important? If we have a gap, it's going to create, for example, it's going to play C, and if you put it from 0 to 127, it's gonna sample each of the different velocity layers, man.
Okay, per note.
Per note.
All right.
So we can spend it, and since it's recording, it's happening in real time.
So it's gonna take a long
Your entire life, okay? Because in the first page, let me show you this. You can tell how long the note is gonna be held, for how many seconds, and how many seconds it's gonna take for the sample to stop recording. Okay, so you can have, for example, if you're dealing with delays or a very smooth release tail on your synth with the decay, for example, something like this. You can calculate it and put it as part of the sound.
Okay.
Right now, I'm gonna have it super fast, just because we're gonna be doing this experiment. Okay. Now, our sample is gonna take 3 seconds, and the note is gonna be held for 2 seconds. We're gonna record from the input number 8 on my interface coming out of the Moog. Using channel number 1, we're gonna be just going from C to D, C1 to D1, 3 notes, and we're gonna stick to 100 and 100, maximum and minimum. Then we can actually take advantage of this. We can, for example, use an auto trim, so we can smooth out the race. And we can even find a loop, which I think is finding the transient information.
Okay.
And we will normalize. So that means that all of the samples are going to be already pre-processed for us to use them automatically or immediately as an instrument. And I'm going to make sure that the monitoring is on so we can hear.
Awesome.
Super annoying. But here we go. Pressing start. And that's it.
There it is.
Now let's see. Let's check the keyword. I'm going to duplicate just to make sure that we didn't do something dumb. So let's select this guy. Okay. Now is the sample. Let me just make sure that we're not outputting to the Moog as well. So we're going to go to channel, select the MIDI output, and we're going to turn it off. So, according to the legend, what we're going to be about to hear is going to be the sample, not the machine, not the Moog. It's working.
Yes.
So, let's take a look at the sample. Over here, you can see that those are the notes, and these are the ones that are stretched. Okay? So, if I go to keyboard mode, right now, my keyboard is starting off at C3. But since we recorded C1, let's go to C1. And we only sample that guy, this guy, and that guy. Anything after this guy, from this guy onwards, is being pitched by the sampler.
Yes.
And anything, the other way around. Okay? Yeah. Questions so far?
No, I think it's actually quite clear.
It's clear, right?
It's
and
clear,
it's easy. Yeah. But see how some form of artifacts are already taking place. I'm going to go on a higher note.
Very short.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So you see that there are plenty of uses for going a little bit bananas with the sampling. You don't have to be precise. Because sometimes these kind of artifacts are cool, and we're going to be capitalizing on those artifacts today. So, since we already got this example properly explained, let's create a proper sound that will be useful. So, I'm going to get out of this mode. I'm going to delete this sample because it makes no sense for us to keep it here. And let's see. I'm gonna be creating these. I'm gonna be using 1 second sample or pad number 4 for my input of the mode. Okay, so just for us to hear what's going on. So once again, I'm gonna go to channel in. I'm gonna select MIDI, machine, channel 1. Then I'm gonna select input. We're gonna select the input being our interface. But it's gonna be, sorry about that. That's because I went through one of the channels that is my microphone. I'm gonna select the input number 4 and it's coming in.
There it is.
Perfect. Why am I doing this? Because now we're gonna be working with the synthesizer. Let's create some form of sound design. Before we're doing that, let's see what we have going on as a scratch. Nice and all, but it's clearly just the beginning of an idea. It's not even a potential song in the making. So let's come up with something that could inspire us to keep developing the track. What could it be? Let's say that we want to create a. How about if we work on a kind of bass sound?
All right.
So let's see. We can do it just using this, or let's do something better. I'm gonna create a new pattern, so we can ignore everything going on, and I can just create a series of notes using the arpeggiator. So let's see. But let's go for a much more deeper sound, so we can actually create some form of, have an idea of what kind of bass sound we're going to be creating. That's even lower. Oh, yes. Okay, so coming back. So let's see. We're going to just record that. And again, since I suck, I'm gonna go for my minor scale. Let's see. I think I'm gonna stick to one note, but with the arpeggiator. Okay, that could work. So I'm gonna record this. Nice. And this will allow me to finally work exclusively on the synthesizer. So here we go. That kind of sounds like a bass to me, right? It even has a little bit of this percussive tone to it that could be useful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that we like that guy. So we're gonna go back to pad mode, and I'm gonna now select this pad because we're gonna be auto-sampling this bad boy through the use of this. First and foremost, let's make sure that this guy is not sending me the signal outside. So I'm gonna go to this, then MIDI off. Perfect. So no problems. So now coming back to the channel that we're going to be using channel 8 or pad number 8, and also let's change the color so we know what this guy is doing. This guy's gonna be mint. Okay, mint. So sample. Once again, going back to the very beginning, when I'm using auto sampler, I'm gonna maybe make the sampler even shorter. Maybe somewhere like 2 seconds because it's almost immediate. Let's see. But you know what? Maybe the glide is gonna give us a little bit of an issue. Okay, kind of works. Then the same input, we got it correctly. Now I'm gonna go from C1 all the way down to C2. Why? Because that way we're gonna have a properly sampled, extended range for our bass. So let's do it. Let's make sure that everything is set correctly. Yes, 100, 100. Yes, normalize sound. Perfect. So here we go. Let's enjoy the beautiful sound of just one note at a time. And they can hear us still.
Yeah.
Perfect. Look at this. Isn't this exciting, Theo?
It's very exciting.
It is indeed.
Yeah, I feel inspired actually.
Yes.
Aren't you grooving?
Yeah, man. Got it. Perfect. So, right out of the bat, I can see that we have to edit a little bit the sample because we got a little bit of what's that? A little bit of a gap. Let me first make sure that we got the sample correctly portrayed to us or arranged for us. I'm gonna go for keyword mode. We got C1 already. Perfect. And that being the last one that we actually sampled, we have no artifacts going on. If I go higher, let's see, we're starting at C1 or C2. Let's go through A sharp 2. We're already starting to hear a little bit of a difference. Not that big. If I go super high pitched,
Yeah.
but it could be like a glitchy, nice sound. But now, let's first arrange our sample in a way that it makes sense for us. Let me see if you can be able to see the sample itself. Let me see, how can I show it to you? Zone. Here is slice. Here you can see that we got a tiny gap that will make our life kind of annoying when it comes to playing back or playing with the sample itself. Why? Because it's a little bit quite delayed by several milliseconds. So let's address it. I'm gonna work with it.
Can you do it in batch?
It will do it in batch.
Oh, great.
So I will find the starting point, and I think you will need to use the big screen in this one, okay?
Okay.
Because it's not being shown the same way. This is the screen you should pay attention to.
All right.
Look, over here I have control over the starting point for the sample. You can see that this line is already moving across the screen. It's showing me the point in which it begins. Sadly, due to the color of the screen, is not necessarily fully translated. But in this one, trust me, bro. I'm gonna zoom in. As you can see, I can actually control the zoom, so I can be very precise. And this is why I strongly recommend you to get this stuff with you. It's very useful. And no, before you say something, no, this is not sponsored by Native Instruments. I'm gonna just try to get it as close as possible to the starting point. Now let's see. Okay, you know what? It didn't do it on everything. I gotta do it by foot. No problemo. I thought it was capable of doing this, but I think it is. The things that I need to. Perfect. Now it's working correctly. So I think you can do it by in a faster way. But this is super important because this is housekeeping. I'm gonna set it somewhere here. Perfect. The same applies here. And actually, now that I think about it, I'm just gonna use the same parameters because everything was recorded in the same way.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm gonna go for same. Studio One, yeah, it's a good domain, but to be frank, I prefer to use Logic. And when it comes to this kind of hands-on approach, I find a machine to be unbeatable. in my humble opinion. I know that the MPC is very useful and very efficient, and it's a very much a good competition to machine. In general, I prefer to use this kind of stuff for my train of thought to be driven to a particular direction. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yep.
Because there are plenty of uses for this kind of stuff, and especially me being a rock and roller, my mindset is always going for something complex and orchestral and stuff, right? So whenever I need to produce something that is similar or not similar, inspired by much more urban sounds or more electronic driven music, using something like this changes the whole paradigm for me. So let's see. Let's fix the last few. Was 1,000 somewhere? 1,200? There it is. Same. The same. And I think we're about to finish. Perfect. That's it. Nice. So it's working. Now, with this being done, now we have access to the entirety of the array of instruments or effects that are built in the machine, plus the sound that we created by ourselves. So let's see if we can create something that works. Nice. You're going to start to see that it even develops some form of character, because we're going to be playing with the sampler now. Over here in the sampler, we can change the engine, and that's going to allow us to create a different sound. For example, right now we're using the standard engine, which is kind of similar to what we recorded. It's very much transparent. I know buzzwords, but whatever. But if we go for something like the MP660, I don't know if it has to do with certain MPCs. Can you hear the distortion?
Yeah.
Let's swap for something different.
It's fatter.
It's fatter.
Yeah.
Yes. A little bit more aggressive. And just for sake of comparison, can you hear the difference?
Yeah.
It's clear, man. Of course, this is a little bit louder than the input right now, but you can see why this is cool. Secondly, see what happens here. Even though I already work with the filter on the hardware instrument, I can still work with the filter that is built into the sampler. So you take a look at this. I'm gonna turn it on. Awesome, and I can apply now resonance on top of the resonance that I created or I used during the tracking. Nice. Let's keep rocking with it, because we can even add a little bit of compression and still using the built-in sampler in machine. Okay, I'm gonna create briefly just a drum pattern so we can have some form of excitement, just to see if it takes us somewhere.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go for on a different bank. I'm gonna make sure that the bank is audible, is outputting to you. So this is it. We're outputting vertical correctly. Output. Let me make sure that I'm not doing something dumb. External 9. Perfect. So why is that? This is an extra step. This is just for me to be able to broadcast the sound coming out of my setup here, so you can hear it on your end. Okay. You don't have to do this. You don't have to replicate this particular step. Now let's go to browse. And let's go for instruments. No, let's go for a even a loop could be fun. Let's see. But we're gonna go for drums. Let's try that one. I picked a sound over actually going for a proper pattern, because this is actually similar to what we dealt with. This is a pre-recorded sample that is going to be triggered to this path. Okay?
Okay.
So if I press play, Okay, kind of dumb, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to just to see what kind of stuff we can do with this. Let's go back to the mixer and Robbie. Good to have you here. So, how is it going? How's the mastering going, by the way? Now, I'm gonna open up a little bit the filter because it was a little bit too extreme. Another thing I forgot to mention. The Mo is a mono synthesizer. But after sampling it, take a look at this. I turned a mono synthesizer into a poly synth. How was that, huh?
That's pretty awesome, actually.
That's fantastic, right? Because we're actually capitalizing on everything that the whole package has to offer. Again, I'm not trying to sell you onto the whole machine ecosystem. This is more about me showing you the plenty of uses that something like this has for you. And see how much we're expanding the capabilities of a particular unit that I got here to something else. And one more thing. All of the samples here can be exported and used somewhere else. Not exclusive to machine. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
For example, if you're rocking Studio One, if you're rocking Logic Pro X or whatever, Pro 11, or any other DAW that supports samples, which is basically every goddamn DAW under the sun, unless you're rocking a DSD-based system, that whatever. Yeah. You will be able to use exactly the same things that I'm doing right now with the same samples that I'm going to be creating today. So, let's see. Let's see if we can arrange something similar to what we did with the arpeggiator. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna go for pattern. I'm gonna select pattern number 2, which is the one we have with everything going on. And since we got our drums already there, we'll be able to hear both at the same time. And both of them will be synced to tempo, and I will be able to play around with my bass. Here we go. Okay, I'm starting to get somewhere. So I want to make my sound a little bit more exciting. Since we're rocking this, how about if we add a little bit of lo-fi? And I'm going to open up the cutoff for now. And let's add a little bit of effects. We're sampling. So part of the fun of the sample is the lo-fi. And lo-fi, I don't mean lo-fi by in the same way as lo-fi hip-hop. Yeah, because that would be sinful. No. Lo-fi in the sense of we are starting to mess around with the quality and the texture of our sounds. And again, this is not exclusive to machine. This is something that it's a technique, okay? And this is me just showing you some of the tricks. So, let's record something easy. Let's go. Let's play a little bit with the synthesizer here with the sequence. Let's see if we go for higher octave just to. Okay, let's see. I don't like it, but somewhere around the lines. Okay. Okay, that sounds better. Nice. We got this going. I'm gonna go to the mixer just to make sure that we don't have that build up on volume, so we can have some form of usable perspective, because my bass is a little bit too loud. So I'm gonna dock it down a little bit. Now let's see. Let's add some effects. Pressing the encoder or using the browser here. I'm gonna look for a particular effect that is actually made by Native Instruments. It's called, what's the name of this guy? Byte. Look this! It even has colors. Why? Because this is an NKS instrument. What does that stand for? Stands for instruments that are already properly mapped out to all of the different parameters on my hardware unit.
How handy.
Super handy, man. I love that. And you know what's best? Look, can I hold my beer? I should have one. Look. This guy over here, a little bit dusty due to the cleaning. This guy over here is also an NKS compatible keyboard. This is a very inexpensive keyboard. It's a complete control M32. Again, Native Instruments. Why? I have invested since the beginning of my career into the whole Native Instruments ecosystem. It's very good. But why am I showing you this? It has knobs and encoders and similar controls to the ones found on the machine. That means that also instruments that are NKS compatibles not only will be reflected on machine, they will be also reflected on the controls over your knobs on your NKS compatible hardware. I'm going to say, oh, it gotta be only Native Instruments. That's what I would say if I were stupid, because in reality, no, look at this. We're going to go for browser, we're going to go for effects, and are you fancy for something like Eventide?
Why wouldn't I be?
Wow!
Am I crazy?
Would you like something by, and this is actually something very new, Universal Audio?
For real?
Yeah, it's NKS compatible. You can love them you can love them more. Look, show them the big screen, man. Somebody's look. It even has the proper graphical description of the plugins, man. Look at this. And every single one of the plugins that I own by them are here. So let's say that we add a little bit of, I don't know, we're already at it. Let's compress properly with an 1176. And look, even the logo. Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah, so these are presets, by the way. But we don't do presets here. So I'm going to use the first one because I'm going to tweak it to taste. So, of course, it's BC because it's a Universal Audio plugin. But look at that. Wow. And all of the controls for the goddamn compressor are presented to me. How do I know? Look at this. If I click here and we click on edit, there is a plugin, right?
Yes.
On my device it says attack. Wow, it's moving.
Yep. Out of the box.
Out of the box.
Awesome.
That. So you might be saying, well, no, actually, this order of effects kind of makes sense. But I'm gonna bypass the plugin. Yeah, you can do it from the box, from the device itself, because this thing is designed to be an instrument rather than a piece of controllers. It's not a controller; it's an instrument. So let's first play around with the sound of the bass that we're creating or working on, and byte. We're gonna be adding a little bit of extra texture to the sound, which would be impossible to do on my Moog. So here we go. First, what is this? This is basically a beat crusher. So we're gonna begin with this. We're gonna change the frequency here, and I'm gonna solo the sound of the bass for now. you hear a little bit of the...
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the doubles. I wasn't aware of it, but fixed. So, if I press play again, pay attention now to the sound, and I'm going to even mute the drums. Badass, right?
That's cool, yeah.
Now let's insert our compressor. First, this is an 1176, so all of us love them to death. So let's play around with it. Since my plan is for this to be kind of percussive, I'm going to use a slow attack, semi-slow, and a fast release. Why is that, Tiago? We had a conversation similar to this a few hours ago.
Yeah, because since you want to enhance the transient, you need to let it go through the compressor before the squashing actually begins.
But I want to squash a little bit so I
Yes.
can bring in the rest.
Yeah.
So, exactly. Look at that. And we're gonna go for this kind of aggressive ratio of 8-1 or even harder, plenty. Because when you're producing, you're allowed to do this kind of shit. Okay.
You can go a little bit more ballistic.
You can go a little bit more ballistics. So let's see. I'm gonna try to hit it harder because it's a little bit it's not exciting the compressor enough. I'm gonna try to work with the headroom, which it's this tiny thing here. So I'm gonna increase it so we can hit the compressor a little bit harder. Going somewhere. So let's bring back the drums. What do you
Okay.
think?
I like it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
starting to-
beefy.
It's beefier, right?
Yeah.
It's beefier. Let's see if by pushing it, taking the whole thing down one octave, we can get it to sound a bit better. I'm going to use the bends. Let me close this guy. Because I will do the whole thing. I'm going to move the entirety of the performance one octave down with the hardware itself. We select events. It's going to take us here. And then select. I'm going to select all. And then we're going to just simply go down. Sorry, not that. Not down. So let's say I'm going to... How do you do that? I forgot. Yeah, easy. It has a dedicated button here. Shift 15, one octave down.
Now we're talking.
But you know why it happened? Why it changed this much? Let me show you. If I go back to my keyword here and my sample, since we sampled, we took a snapshot out of the mo and created this kind of staccato kind of like thing. Since we lowered the pitch, we are now a little bit lower in pitch than the original sample. This is the lowest key we played. And see how dark or how low in pitch our track is.
Yeah.
It's basically in this region now. So I removed some of the extra artifacts that were happening, and we're getting a much more detailed sound. In this case, it worked better for it to be the original recordings. And since we recorded every single one of the notes that are part of this arpeggio, in an individual fashion for each of the samples, we got a very natural sounding sound. Now, let's keep capitalizing on the power of effects. I'm gonna stick to this sound, but now I'm gonna add a new plugin, a new effect. Let's try to see if we can add an extra octave to the sound. So I'm gonna click here, and let's go for. Let me see, what can we do? You know what? I think it's gonna be better if we go for freaking eventide. We're gonna go for, what would be that guy? Maybe Crush Station. This, sadly, is not an NKS plugin yet. But even though it is not, look at this. That was my bad. Even though it is not, look at this. Machine is intelligent enough to try to show you some of the most important parameters.
Oh, that's cool.
It's very good, so
Yeah.
it's fantastic. I picked this one because it has a very beautiful, kind of gritty sounding octave up and down. So let's see. I'm gonna solo once again the sound of our bass, and even muting the drums. So it's gonna be just the bass.
That's
Cool,
a great
right?
sound, yeah.
That's a great tone.
Yeah.
Let's see with the drums. Nice.
Yeah. It's beginning to slap.
It's beginning to slap. And yes, as you can tell, I can control the mix from here. Let me show you on your screen as well. And I struggle with avoiding the clipping on the plugin. Not necessarily a problem because it's a distortion plugin, right? And I managed to get something that I think is correct. This plugin is very cool because it has a built-in, if I recall correctly, a built-in compressor, has a very nice overdrive circuit / fuzz, and also has a very nice octaver. It's very cool. I haven't worked with it with the octaver. Let's see if we can add a little bit of extra punch to it. So let's see. We're gonna bring it up. Right now we got 0 of both. Let's see. much put together, right?
Yeah, that the mids was quite handy.
Useful. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Perfect. So now, after doing this, let's do one final sample. So far, we have been rocking just the mono capabilities of the synth because it's a mono synthesizer. But what if we create a synth a path?
With a mono synthesizer.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
That is insane.
It is insane, but we will do it because we can. Introducing my patch chords. Why? Because
That was a very underwhelming
I know it was terrible. Yes.
reveal.
Yeah, it was very lame. We're gonna be actually rocking these bad boys because we're gonna be effing around with the matrix on the Moog. But not only that, because this is actually the moment in which I knock heads off. So far, we've been tracking the Moog as a monosynth. But I'm gonna be tracking it now as a stereo one. How? Without having to do any form of shenanigans because I already did my homework before going live. In the form of this. Can you zoom in, please? Those who are familiar with the channel and whenever of you or whoever of you who have been here before, we did something like this. Like using hardware. I like to use my Eventide pedals. But in this case, I'm going to be using this Eventide pedal, the micro pitch, as a way to make a stereo output of my Moog, but I want to make it through the use of the modulation capabilities of the synth, or sorry, the synth, the effect itself, because we're going to be creating a note, we're going to be creating a sample that we will be used as a path later on. And since we're going to be sampling, I will take advantage of the modulation and the artifacts that are created out of sync. Not out of sync, pitching up or pitching down, and the out of sync nature of those samples, so we can create something very funky and fun and esoteric. So how to do it first? I'm gonna go to bank number 2, just to have a space. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stick to this guy. I'm gonna use pad number 5 for us to have a monitor, a way to monitor the sound of the Moog. So we're gonna go here to channel. We're gonna select the MIDI, being the machine. MIDI output number channel 1. So that's how we are rocking this bad boy. Then I'm gonna go to the input, audio-wise, and I'm gonna go all the way to, yeah, perfect, to the one that is coming in, not to the Moog. Believe it or not. We're gonna go for the one that is coming from this guy. Why? Because I split the signal coming out of my Moog through the use of my DI over there. Is outside of a shot, but I'm getting the same signal over here into the pedal, so we could get both recordings without having to do the switcheroo.
Very good.
Engineering. Now let's see. This is a mistake because I set it to expect signal from a mono source. We need a stereo source. If I recall correctly, it's coming through 3 and 4. Let's see. It is. I just gotta mute the input of the mono. There is. But dude, is it working?
Yeah.
It is.
It is working.
It is working. Good. So, first and foremost, we're gonna be creating a pad. So, how to do it? We're gonna turn on, or turn off, if I put it in better terms, the VCA. And we're gonna first make sure that our filter is moving in accord to the LFO. The synth itself has already a switch here that will allow the connection to happen. Yeah, we're starting to get some, right? Because this, you should imagine this sound as a pad, like a very atmospheric, kind of cinematic sounding pad. Right now, we are rocking just this Quadrabox engine on the Eventide, which is producing a slightly, not necessarily, it's actually adding octaves. I don't want it. Let's go for something more modulated. So I'm gonna go for, it could be micropitch. No, let's go for the 910, 949. Okay. Why is that? What is that? That's basically a super badass chorus effect. Let's see how it sounds like.
That's cool.
Yeah. Could you hear the kind of artifact that was happening? Like a little bit of a wobbly effect.
Yeah, but I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Now let's play around with the modulators here. Let's send a little bit of the. I'm gonna use the output of my saw to control the resonance. Let's see. Kind of Pink Floydish.
Yeah.
Kinda. Now let's see. Let's keep adding more chords. Damn it, we got the ones without the mult. Let's add another chord. I'm gonna rock in, for example, let's see. We can add an extra level of modulation to the filter, even though we're using the LFO right now. We could use, for example, the square wave on the LFO, because right now we're rocking the spike. It's not spike. It's the sawtooth. But we can use just the pulse. No, that would be kind of stupid. Let's see. We could even control. I'm gonna use the BC mix. So I'm gonna output the pulse into the BC mix. Why? Because we're gonna be controlling the output of the how much. We're gonna turn the BC mix knob on the Moog as a controller for the amount, okay, of modulation coming out of this particular BCO. So let's see. We're gonna go to BC control mix.
Just ask you, once you turn to the side, if you can speak a little bit louder.
Okay, I will be shouting. And from there, get our cable that is not that complex. Shit, I have the short cable so okay, from here, mix 1, which is gonna be, mix 2 is gonna be my highest point. I'm gonna use it to send it to, let's see, where's the mult? This mix 2. Where the hell is it? See, is this multi 1? No. It's, oh, damn it. There's this mix, sorry. Output of this mix is gonna go into the rate of the LFO. Let's see. Okay, I think we got a good starting point. But now, since the plan is to create a path, not just a drone, we're gonna be doing this. I'm gonna set now I'm gonna turn on once again the envelope, and let's see. I'm gonna increase the decay and even turn on the sustain. I think this could work. Let's open up, remove a little bit of the. Yeah, this could work. So let's now set up our whole sampling thing. I'm gonna go here and let's create a new sample so we can use this space for the path. Where can we do it? Arrangement, very important. I'm gonna have order. So we're rocking this guy to control the mouth. I'm gonna have it here, 12. And again, I'm gonna change the color. So we can know that this is, again, mint. It's a sample out of the mouth. Then, sampler. We're gonna go back, auto sampling, perfect. In this case, I'm gonna extend the length of the sample to probably 3 seconds again, and I'm gonna keep the note held for 2 seconds. And we're gonna go for low, the same. Our starting point for the auto sampler is gonna begin at C1 all the way down to C2. Extend, perfect. Extend on the map, the velocity map. Yeah, no need for that. And yes, normalize place. And if everything goes according to the plan, we're gonna be sampling here. Already selected. Perfect. Start. I know it's boring, but we're almost done. Because I think with this one is gonna be where you will truly be able to see the power of sampling.
Okay. There is.
Okay, now we got it. Fat. Of course, we got the arpeggiator. Let me turn it off. I said off. Nice. But right now it's very high pitched, and I'm also gonna lower the volume. It's very high. This is not the mo. This is actually our sample. So if we go here, you can see it's already moving. Now, keyboard mode. We're gonna go higher, and I'm gonna use the chords so we can actually get a better presentation and easier just with one finger.
Is it not triggering the Moog as well?
Yeah, it is. Why? Because we have still the output of MIDI. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see. Shouldn't. MIDI destination? No, it shouldn't. No, it is not. You know when this lights up. So now you see that if I hold the note, we're starting to get these variations on the sound, and also we're playing several notes, multiple notes of the same synthesizer sound with the machine itself.
Yes.
And the best part, we can play with plugins again. Let's do it. So, in this case, since my plan is to create this kind of atmospheric, super funky and badass sound, let's go for a very intense, and I think it's a plugin that I haven't used in this show before. It's by Plugin Alliance, I think, and it's called Silo.
Yeah, I don't think I know that one.
No, that one is very good, man. It's not Plugin Alliance itself. It's devised by, what's the name of these guys? Give me a second. Give me a second. Because this big.
You know the thing.
Is unfiltered audio. Here's load. This guy is a grain style delay unit. Show them on the screen.
Yes.
There is. And in this case, I don't think it's gonna be a good idea to work with the encoders because it has so many knobs.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Nice, right?
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, so let's add some form of, let's change the sampling for something a bit lower res, because that's the style of the time. Let's change the way that the whole thing happens. Let's add more grain, and also let's change the positioning. Let's go for shimmer, and 3D pitch. No, stereo and granular. Yeah, that's the one, that's style. As you can see, it's now moving all over the place in this quadrant. Let's see how it sounds like now. Nice, but I think we can do better. So let's go for reverse. We're going to increase the spread, so the stereo spread is bigger. Now, let's add a little bit more of faster rate.
Really kind of neat nut.
Yes, and let's add more of this. Okay, let's see. Let me check. Let me see what we can do. Get more reverb. So I want to turn this into a huge atmosphere. I'm gonna play with the cutoff. Let me see if the cutoff is properly set here. Cutoff. Here it is. Excellent. So I will be able to play. Way too crazy for my liking.
Yeah.
Okay, too crazy. Let's let's back it off a bit. Let's see. I'm gonna okay. A little bit slower, and you can see that the grains are moving in different fashion.
Yeah.
I want it to be a little bit faster, so we get more grains, and maybe the spread is too much. Let's see. Let's try a preset. Let's try Astral Dance. Sounds fun. If only. Oh, it's super slow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play with the filter here on my, not even the filter. Let's try if I can compress a bit the squeakiness.
now we're talking.
Nice, but now I will work with the filter because I want to control a little bit of the quickness. And I'm going to use the band pass. Oof.
Very cool.
That's nice. Let's add a little bit of compression. I'm gonna add an extra compressor here. So let's go for, I'm gonna use that limiter, the built-in limiter. Limiter, here's, bam. And I'm gonna move it because I'm gonna hit the limiter before the whole effect, exactly. So let's set the threshold and you should be able to see. Okay. Nice. But I need more reverb. So I'm gonna add an extra reverb. And let's use, obviously,
Black hole.
Ram. No, I'll go for Ram. Ram is very good. No, Black hole is good as well, but in this case, I think Ram is gonna be better. It's a little bit more in your face. Let's see, where's native instruments? Go for Ram. Oh, there's not. I want something big, but not that stupid. Let's try this preset. Kind of there, but I want a little bit more. So let's change it for airy. And higher mix.
Okay.
Starting to get there, right?
Yep.
Now, I think that my sample is a little bit too abrasive, so I'm going to increase the attack. So I'm going to make it slower for it to reach the momentum. So good. Let's see if by mixing the whole the RAM all the way to 100%.
Yeah, works.
Let's check on silo.
Yeah.
Now we're talking, right?
Now we're talking.
Let's see. So let's say the first note. Let's go for. I guess. Go for the lower octave. Wow.
That's very good.
That's very good. You know why? It's because we're having all sorts of modulation and out of phase, out of sync things going on by having different positions. Because remember this, when we produced this sample, we tracked C1 all the way down to C2. Right now, my root note is C2. So I'm already playing with plenty of samples pitch higher.
Yeah.
So we're starting to have some form of differentials. And what if we go back to the sampler and change the engine for something a little bit more dirty?
All right.
This is great. And what if we use the built-in LFO to move the position of my filter on the sampler? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Let's see.
Just as a reminder.
That was the starting point.
Nice.
That's a great freaking sound.
It is. Look at that!
Badass.
It starts to sound like music now. It's
Yeah.
not just random sounds that are kind of coordinated and making some form of sense. What did we learn today? Diego?
Oh, are we supposed to learn?
Well, allegedly. No, but for real.
No, look.
It's the first time I think you see machine doing this kind of shit.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck out to me the most today, like now this representation near the end, when you change the sampling engine
Yes.
of this last sound that you produced, the pad.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, what a difference it made.
Huge, right?
Huge difference, because I'm kind of aware of the capabilities of machine, even though I have never seen it used in depth as we're going out right now.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that actually took me by surprise was how much it changed the impact of the sampling engine, because this sound it grew to life.
It did.
Yeah.
It did indeed. That's why when I got started into the whole notion of music production, I always found kind of difficult to wrap my head around the concept of bit crushers and bit reduction and stuff like that, because I was like, well, what's the point of degrading the quality of the sound you're going to be working with? But once I started to truly get more into the whole notion of sampling and learning a little bit more outside of the box of just mixing and producing regular instruments, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, a regular synthesizer straight into the interface. When I started to get a little bit more serious in the whole notion of virtual instruments, sampling, and recorded sounds in general used as an instrument rather than just being recordings, I started to see that the amount of effect that low quality converters when tracking have over music, and how much they will affect the sound of a synthesizer or a sampler when when more than one key is pressed at a time.
Yeah.
You will usually find this kind of effects more noticeable when working with different sample engines. The engines, and this is not the only one that the only DAW that does that. Plenty. The thing is that the way that it does it is very beautiful. You saw how huge the sound changed hugely.
Yeah.
Why? Because first and foremost, this sample is now triggered out of the range of the samples that we. Some of them, a good chunk of them, are still part of the multi-sampled stuff that we did at the auto sampler.
Yeah.
But a good chunk of them are not. So you're getting the phase incoherences of the modulation that is part of the recording apparatus here, plus the different sounds coming in at the same time, all of them following that particular modulation, but some of them being out of sync due to them being high pitched.
Yeah.
Those fluctuations are creating kind of a chorus-like effect. That's amazing.
Yeah, it makes it sound all richer.
And when you degrade the sound by lowering the quality of the engine or using a much more vintage sounding converter, which is what the engine does on machine, you're adding texture. You're starting to add artifacts, even more artifacts, that each of them is triggered at the same time as you press the key.
Yeah.
Adding more modulation.
Yeah.
That's why you start to get this dusty, fun, crunchy, crusty, but beautiful and kind of nostalgic sounding.
Yeah.
I know that's once again a buzzword, but in this case, kind of makes sense because you get the wobbliness, the weirdness, and by using the granular delay, we started to get more modulation, even more on top of the modulation, and summing it everything together with the use of the stupid great sounding reverb that is round, we turn a good sound into a monster.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's why I love this thing. Do I recommend it? Yes. Should you get it? Maybe. Why? It's not for everybody. Because you gotta truly invest a good chunk of your time learning your way around it. You saw that I didn't use a mouse in the entirety of this live stream because I've been rocking machines since machine version 1. So I know my way around it very much. Am I super fast? No. There are people who are faster than me because they use it way more often than I do, and I use it often enough. The thing is that I look at it as practicing with my guitar because it's basically an instrument. And the more familiar you are with it, the faster you can get results, the more inspiration you get out of this box. So with that being said, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. If you got any question regarding this or any other form of stuff related to music production, please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you want to support the channel, well, just simply like the video. Don't be cheap. You've been watching for long enough, so at least drop a like. Don't be that guy. And we will see you next week, continuing with this project, because as I mentioned in the beginning of this session, not this one, but this whole experience, we're gonna be moving from machine to different DAWs in different stages. Why? Because we're gonna be taking advantage of the capabilities of every single one of those DAWs. Okay. With that being said, stay tuned. We'll see you when we see you.